Good morning, Rabbi Isai. Welcome to all the guests. Rabbi Isai, we had a Geshmak Sugi yesterday, the size of the Mizbeach and different things. We're continuing with that Sugya. Rabbi Yossi, here we go. This is Machlokes between Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yossi says the Mizbeach was 5 by 5. If the Mizbeach is 5 by 5, that leaves us one tiny Amma in the center that you can be makriv on. Why? Because you have to get rid of, you can't be makriv where the horns are, and you can't be makriv in the Amma below the horns because that's where the kohen walks around. So basically, you're left with one tiny square in the middle. And on that square, Moshe Rabbeinu or Shlomo HaMelech makriv 1,000 oilos in one day. Rabbi Yehuda argues. Rabbi Yehuda Omer nemer kan revua v'nemer lahalon revua. Here's the Gzera Shava. It says in Shmos it says revua. In Yecheskel it says revua. Interesting Gzera Shava, but it's a serious Gzera Shava because we're going to see that everybody agrees that this Gzera Shava exists. Malalon memtziasei hayamoided. That you start measuring something like this. You take the center point and you come off the center, and from there you say 5. So the Torah says 5, but it really means from the center. Why do I say such a thing? Because I see it somewhere else, the same idea. You're not going from side to side, and that would be 5 by 5. You're going to the center, from the side to the center, from the side to the center. And that gives us a 10 by 10 Mizbeach. So, if it's a 10 by 10 Mizbeach, now you must remove, I don't know if we did that already, we did it yesterday, you must remove the outer Amma, because there's a horn on every corner. You must remove one inner one, but that goes all the way around like Ari chapped right away. So therefore, it takes off 2 from each side. So we're left with 6. If you take off 4, 2 plus 2 is 4, 10 minus 4 is 6. So now you have a 6 by 6 square where you can do korbanos on. 6 times 6, 36. 36 is, Shlomo HaMelech had a 400 Amma Mizbeach. So in a 400 Amma Mizbeach, you can get 11 36s in there. So if Moshe Rabbeinu was able to be makriv on one square Amma, 1,000 korbanos, so 11 times 1,000 is 11,000 korbanos. So therefore, we have a problem. You cannot be makriv 142,000 korbanos on this Mizbeach, a 10 by 10, says Rabbi Yehuda. So let me just show you. We have actually 4 machlokes in here between Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Yossi. According to Rabbi Yehuda, that the Mizbeach wasn't large enough, so we had to be mekadesh the entire Chazarah. You have a Mizbeach in the middle, but it's not large enough. So I have to be able to be makriv and burn up these korbanos all over the floor. So you had to be makriv. According to Rabbi Yossi, makdish. According to Rabbi Yossi, I didn't have to be makdish the entire Chazarah. It's a massive machlokes. I don't have to be mekadesh the Chazarah. Why? It all fits on that small little 5 by 5 Mizbeach with one Amma, that's enough. It has a superpower, it's a super fire, it's not a regular fire. It can consume 142,000 korban, it's not a problem. The machlokes we just saw, according to Rabbi Yehuda, Mizbeach is 10 by 10, according to Rabbi Yossi, it's 5 by 5. Another machlokes we're going to get into right now, how tall was the Mizbeach? According to Rabbi Yehuda, it's 3 plus 1. You go to the top, plus 1. What's the 1? The kronos, so total of 4. According to Rabbi Yossi, it's 9 plus 1 is 10. And then we have another machlokes that we're also going to talk about. This is also very interesting. How tall were the curtains, actually the walls of the Mishkan in the Midbar? How tall were they? Were they 5 or 15? The pasuk says 5. Just the Gemara says it doesn't make sense. What, people that are walking outside can look over and see inside? 5 amas. They're not going to see inside, but if the kohen is standing on top of a tall mizbeach, they can see him. It's not proper to see him doing the avodah. So says the Gemara. That's what we're talking about now. V'hasam and all. How do you know that you measure something from the center? Says the Gemara, we have it in another place also. It says the Chsiva Ariel 12 amal kol ruach. Ariel is referring to Mizbeach. It's 12 from the center. From the center. Maybe it's only 12 by 12. Who told you it's 24 by 24? It has 4 quarters. So by us also. That's the pshat. 5 doesn't mean 5. 5 means 10 because you're measuring to the center. Rabbi Yosi, Kigam Gzer Shava. Yeah, this is Gzer Shava. Now, Gzer Shava is not a joke. Baruch Hu gave the Gzer Shava to Moshe Rabbeinu. You can't mess around with it. So what does he do with the Gzer Shava? We reviewed the learned the Gzer Shava that you go to the center. What does he do with it? Kigam Gzer Shava beguvo the Gomer. So Rabbi Yehuda is going to learn the Gzer Shava for the width of the Mizbeach. He's learning it for the height of the Mizbeach, the Sanya. V'shaloi shamish kamasai. The Mizbeach, the outer Mizbeach is 3 amma. Dvar Chasavim de Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda says literally it was 3 amma tall. Very short Mizbeach, like this. Short Mizbeach. It's wide and short, and Rabbi Yehuda is tall and not that wide. It's only 5, narrow. So he has a different. He learns from Moshe Rabbeinu to Moshe Rabbeinu. He doesn't learn to Yecheskel. He says it says by the Mizbeach HaChitza and it says Ravua, and it says by the Mizbeach HaPnimi it says Ravua. Right, the Pnimi is the Ketores. Mala'alon Gavoi Pi Shnayim Karkoi. You see, by the Pnimi, the height is double the width. Avkan Pi Shnayim Karkoi. So if we have a 5 amma, that we already established. The Torah says it's 5 amma. Double that is 10 amma tall. Amalei Rabbi Yehuda, I have a big problem with what you're telling me. If you're telling me it's 10 amma tall, approximately 20 feet tall, the height of the curtains are 5 amma. So let's remember that. The Torah says that the curtains are 5 amma. How are we going to get out of that? Where's that picture? If you say this, okay. I say it's 3 amma tall, and I have a 5 amma tall wall. No. But according to you, it's something like this. It's a 5 amma wall, and he's standing 10 amma. He's way above everybody. So anybody walking around in the midbar could see inside and see what he's doing. It's not proper. It doesn't have a tznius. It doesn't have the respect that it needs. You're right. That wouldn't be good. He admits to that. That's not good. However, says Rashi, it only makes sense that the curtain, the kloim that go all the way around the Mishkan, they are at least 10 amma, the side, the height of the Mizbeach, or the Ma Mishkan Esr Amos, Mizbeach Esr Amos. V'oimer, Chaloim Chomesh Esr Amma, Elakosef. So wait a minute. We have a problem here. It says it's 15 amma, not 5 amma, the walls. So why does the Torah say 5? Misfas Mizbeach Ulemalo. So if you take a look, what is this? Oh. This is Stam. So it says Rabbi Yosi, oh, it's actually taller. It's 15 amma. But it mentions 5 amma. The Torah says 5. We saw before, I told you to remember the pasuk, like 7 lines from the bottom. It says, it's 5. So what do we do? So it goes like this. Take a look. This is the karkoiv. It's like a decorative lattice mesh that goes around the mizbeach. We're not even talking about that. We're talking about the one above it, the michbar. From the michbar and above, what am I saying? Let's see side. Hold on a second. No, forget this. It means that from the top of the mizbeach, this one right over here. This one? No, let's go. Where's the one that it goes up? Or maybe it was this. I think it was this one, yeah. Oh. So again, how tall is this curtain? 15. How tall is the Mizbeach? 10. So 10, from above the 10 to the top of the curtain is 5. That's why the Torah says 5. You get a 5 Amma Mechitza above the highest spot in the Azara. So why does it say, according to Rabbi Yossi, why does it say that the Mizbeach is only 3 Amma? It's 10 Amma. Why 3? Again, Rabbi Yehuda says the Mizbeach is 3 Amma. Rabbi Yehuda says Dvarim Kichsavam. It says in the Torah 3, it's 3. Rabbi Yossi says the Mizbeach is 10. So why does the Torah call it 3? Then we have to go to this picture right over here. It's referring to 3 above the Michbar. Here, the Michbar itself, 1 Amma. In other words, 3 from the bottom from where the Michbar starts. The Michbar itself is 1 Amma. This lattice. No, not the lattice.
The ledge.
The ledge. I don't know what is it called?
Rim.
The rim. Some sort of rim. Ledge. It's not a ledge that you can stand on.
I get that.
Protrusion. Plus 2 Amos, 3. That's why the Torah says. Why do we start from there? I'm not exactly sure. And then the Gemara just repeats everything that we said before. Rabbi Yehuda goes by the width. He uses the revuah to say that we start from the center, and therefore it's 5 Amos from the center to the edge, so it's really 10 by 10. And Rabbi Yossi learns the revuah to tell me that the height of the Mizbeach is 10 Amma. That's the Gemara. Rabbi Yehuda comes Chazikoy. If, according to Rabbi Yehuda, how tall is the Mizbeach, Rabbi say? 3. Yeah? It's 3 Amma. How tall is the curtain around the Mizbeach? Around the Mishkan? 5. So the difference is only 2 Amma. 2 Ammas, let's say 4 feet. A kohen is taller than 2 feet, 4 feet. He's standing on top of the Mizbeach, doing the Avodah, so it doesn't really cover him. What does it cover? Covers maybe his head. Efsher. His head, his body besides his head. It's mamish in a different world. The mechitza comes up to here, let's say. So all this is exposed. Is that sneas? Everybody sees the kohen's head and he's moving around over there. Well, Rabbi Yehuda comes chazi. Says the Gemara, and he, the kohen is chazi, avoided the biyadoi lo chazi. You can't see what he's doing. Here, something like this. You see him, but you don't see the animal. You don't see what he's doing. According to Rabbi Yehuda, Shlomo HaMelech took the entire Azara, the whole floor, and was mekadesh it. Why? Because there's not enough room on the Mizbeach to be making all these korbanos. El Rabbi Yossi my kiddush. Why, according to Rabbi Yossi, was he mekadesh? You don't have to be mekadesh the Azara. Says the Gemara, Lahamid ba Mizbeach. He was mekadesh the floor, so that there's gedusha on the floor when you put down the Mizbeach, when you build the Mizbeach. That the Mizbeach of Moshe Rabbeinu was small. What does it mean? According to Rabbi Yehuda, even the new Mizbeach was small. You tell me, Shlomo HaMelech had to build a large Mizbeach because Moshe Rabbeinu's Mizbeach was too small. But Shlomo HaMelech's Mizbeach is also too small. Cannot do 142,000 karbanos. The most it can do is 11,000 karbanos. That's why he built a new one, because it's small. Yours is also small. Mizbeach Havonim Shas Shlomo Tachas Mizbeach Hanachoishes Kadan Hava. He's saying is, no, the new one is small. And Rashi points out that the new one that Shlomo HaMelech made, even though it's made out of stones, it's called Nechoishes also. So it could fit in. The Mizbeach and Nechoishes is Katoin. The new one is too small to be Makir of 142. That's why they had to be Mekadesh the floor. Says the Gemara, my plea. What's the machlokes over here? This whole thing between Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Yossi. Mar Sovar, not this whole thing, but part of it. Mar Sovar Dorim Chutz Mechutz Vein Dorim Chutz Mepnim. Very, very simple. Here we go. What you see on the bottom right, you see the Mizbech of Moshe Rabbeinu, the outer Mizbech. It doesn't look like our outer Mizbech looks like Yecheskel's, right? Right next to it. So anyway, Moshe Rabbeinu was more of a kli, as we're going to see, but it was the outer Mizbech. That's what you makriv korbanos on. It looks like what we do today for the Ketairos and the new Beis Hamikdash. The outer Mizbech looked like that as well. So anyways, the Shaila is, do you learn the outer Mizbech from the outer Mizbech? Moshe Rabbeinu from Yecheskel. That's Rabbi Yehuda. And therefore, I go to a larger area. Just like Yecheskel's Mizbech was 12 from the center, but it's really 24. So ours is 5 from the center, it's really 10 by 10. Or Rabbi Yossi says, no, I rather learn the Mizbech HaChitzon from the Mizbech HaPnimi. I rather learn Moshe Rabbeinu from Moshe Rabbeinu. I don't want to learn from Yecheskel. So says the Gemara, I don't want to learn from the inner Mizbeach. Take a look at the left corner. Both of those Mizbeachos are Kalim. Certainly everybody knows the inner one is a Kli. The inner Mizbeach is a small little thing. You can lift it up. Anybody can lift it up and move it. So too is the giant Mizbeach of Moshe Rabbeinu. It was movable. Look, it even has those rods that people jump in there and pick it up and move it. Anytime they had to break down let me show you this. I thought it was very cool, this video. They had to break down the Mishkan. Here the poles on the side is very, very interesting. And we don't, and he doesn't want to learn the Kli from the Yecheskel's stationary Mizbeach. Omar Rava. So if you recall, on Daf Nun Tes Amud Aleph, all the way on the bottom, 4 lines from the bottom, with the Gemara, or 5 lines, the Gemara says, Moida Hoyer Rabbi Yehuda b'damim. The Gemara asks, I'll remind you, there's a Mizbeach HaKtairos. The Gemara says, if you move the Mizbeach HaKtairos to the side, you could put Ketairos on the floor, burn the Ketairos on the floor. You don't need the actual Mizbeach. So the Gemara says, yeah, you're right. And the Gemara wanted to say the same thing for the regular Mizbeach. The Gemara says, no. When it comes to Zrikas Adam, you need the actual Mizbeach. It's not going to help you. Ketairos is one halacha, Dam is another halacha, says Rabbi Yehuda. And if you look at 4 lines from the bottom, it says, my Rabbi Yehuda. Where do we find this Rabbi Yehuda? So we've been searching for this Rabbi Yehuda all the way to today. And here we are, a daf later. Omar Rava, Moide Rabbi Yehuda b'damim. That's the Rabbi Yehuda that we're talking about. After this whole sugya, comes Rabbi Yehuda and says, listen, to sprinkle the blood, it has to be only on the Mizbeach. The side Rabbi Yehuda Omer. I'll remind you, we had the sugya, it's Geshmak. Erev Pesach, when there's millions of korbanos, there's blood everywhere, till their knees. And we had this Venice thing, the Venice situation. But anyway, so they put these stages in the blood so that you could walk around not on the blood. The Gemara says that according to Rabbi Yehuda, they would fill up one kli of blood and bring it to the Mizbeach and pour it. Why? Because just in case somebody that brought a carbon paste, one of the millions of people, the kohen might have dropped this whole kli onto the ground and wasn't able to do zrika. So we'll do one zrika for everybody. We're assuming that there's some molecule of his blood everywhere. And when I take one kli full of blood, I'm going to take one drop of his and I'll do one final zrika on the Mizbeach. So what do you see from that? You see that the Mizbeach, in order to do the zrika, you have to do it on the Mizbeach. Otherwise, asking Gemara, just do the zrika. Why do you need zrika? Just pour it on wherever you are. According to Rabbi Yehuda, there's kedusha everywhere. Shlomo HaMelech was mekadosh the entire Chazarah. So just pour it where you are. He would fill up one vessel of blood and pour it on the Mizbeach. Because if one of the bloods of the korbanos, the entire blood fell, I'll be machshir his korban. He's able to eat it. Because if there's no zrika, you can't eat it. If it's true that Rabbi Yehuda holds that the entire Chazarah has kedusha, You need you can't just, it can't fall out of the kohen's hand. You need like a kohen gavra. You need an action. You need to pour the blood. Says Gemara, okay, you're right. Good hara. You need the koyach ha'adam. So if it fell out of his hand, it's not enough. That's why we take one vessel full of blood. Imkein says Gemara, pour it right here on the spot. Says Gemara, no. Yeah, you're right. You could, technically speaking, you take the blood, pour it right here on the floor. It has exclusion on the floor. But you want to do the mitzvah min hamuvchar. Omar Rebbe Lazar. Just to remind the Olam when you have a mincha is made out of flour and sometimes different things, oil, whatever. So the kohen first goes and takes a kmitza. Kmitza, he takes literally 3 finger worth of flour with his pinky. He makes it smooth with his thumb, and he takes that and he puts that on the mizbeach. The rest is shirayim, leftover. So the kohanim get to eat in the Beis Hamikdash, but only if the mizbeach is whole. If the mizbeach has a defect, they have to make a repair. Can't eat. You eat the matzah by the mizbeach. Ask the Gemara, you don't have to eat it by the mizbeach. You can eat it anywhere. Eitz mizbeach is referring to the type of mizbeach that you have. You have to have a mizbeach that's full, that's whole. Says Gemara, that's great for mincha. What about kochi kochim and olam? How do I know the same thing applies to kochi kochim? Says Gemara that if the mizbeach is pogum, you can't eat. In the same pasuk, look, it says ha mincha. It says kodesh kadashim. It doesn't only apply to mincha; it also applies to kodesh kadashim. Kochim kalamenayim. Oh, so how do I know that kochi kochim require a mizbeach? Kochi kalim require a mizbeach. Omar Abaya. Asim Midrasha de Rabbi Yossi. Says Abaya, I can learn now from a drasha. The sign Rabbi Yossi Omer Shloisha Dvar Mishum Shloisha Skenim. So unfortunately, we don't have the 3 Skenim here. All 3 things that the 3 Skenim said. We have 1. And this is one of the 3 things. Rabbi Shmuel Omer Yochel Yalo Adam Meiser Sheni Lushalayim Yochel Bezman Azeh. So now, Meiser Sheni. We're not going to show the whole, we're not going to show any of this. I'm just going to show so you remember, Meiser Sheni is you give 10% of your produce to yourself. In other words, you bring 10% of your produce to Yerushalayim and you eat in Yerushalayim. Just, do you have to be tar? Or you can be tummy when you eat it? You have to be tar. You have to be tar. You have malchus if you eat it when you're tummy. Bring it to Yerushalayim. If you want, you could change it into money, you could sell it, redeem it into money, bring the money up to Yerushalayim and buy stuff in Yerushalayim. What about today? That's the Gemara. If you have Meiser Sheni today, could you bring it to Yerushalayim and eat it? So where it says V'dinu. B'char ton avos makayim, u'Meiser ton avos makayim. I'm learning Meiser Sheni from B'char. Both of them you have to bring up to Yerushalayim. Ma B'char ein el b'fnei habayis. You need a Beis Hamikdash in order to bring a Bechar. You need to bring your firstborn animal, you need a Beis Hamikdash. So too when it comes to Meiser, you need a Beis Hamikdash. So today we don't have a Beis Hamikdash, you don't bring your Meiser Sheni to Yerushalayim. As the Gemara, you know why you need a Beis Hamikdash? Because Bechar you have to take the parts that belong to the Mizbeach and put on the Mizbeach. You have to do Zrikas Adam. So of course you need a Beis Hamikdash. Says the Gemara, Bikurim Yechichu. Oh, so now we're introducing something new. Bikurim. Bikurim is the first fruit of the Shivas Haminim. You bring to the Beis Hamikdash. And Bikurim obviously don't have a murim, they don't have innards, and they don't have blood. You bring it as is. Says the Gemara, Bali Bikurim Shekintuun and Anacha. Oh, what's Anacha? Anacha is you take the fruit, take a look. It says Ve'nichoi, right? What does it mean? You take it. That's with the kohen, and you put it down. Where do you place it down? By the mizbeach. So what kind of raya? What do you bring me a raya from Meiser Sheni? That has to be the mizbeach. Tamad lo yimar ve'aveisim shamoy lo yiseichem. I have a pasuk. Ve'aveisim shamoy lo yiseichem. Makish Meiser lebechar. You see, in the same pasuk it says Meiser yiseichem u'bechayres v'karchem. So there's a hekesh. In the same pasuk, it brings the same pasuk. So I learn one thing from the other. Makish ma'aser lebechar, ma bechar eino lebefnei habayis, ma'aser eino lebefnei habayis. You need the Beis Hamikdash. Ask the Gemara, v'nehadu dina of v'nesim b'me'atzad. But I have two things. Look, I have bikurim and bechar. Those two. Learn ma'aser sheni from bikurim and bechar. If I can learn ma'aser sheni from one, because this one is different, because I have imurim. So learn from bikurim. Oh, bikurim is different because I have to put it down on the floor. Okay, so make a combination. Bechar you don't have to put down on the floor. Bikurim you don't have imurim in blood. But the two of them together tell me you need a Beis Hamikdash. So too, Ma'aser Sheni, you need a Beis Hamikdash. The bottom line is though that a Bechar and Bikurim have a Mizbeach and Ma'aser Sheni doesn't need a Mizbeach. Akol Parim, that's that. We could continue over here. Why not? There's a concept in Shas. Very, very simple concept. The Kedusha that the Beis Hamikdash has and the Kedusha that Yerushalayim has, does it last forever? Or perhaps once Klal Yisrael goes into Galus, the Kedusha leaves with them. It's a big shayla. Kedusha Rishon Kitchel Shaita, V'Kitchel Asid Lavai, or Loi Kitchel Asid Lavai. The Kedusha leaves. Mike is over. Ikasav Kedusha Rishon Kitchel Shaita, V'Kitchel Asid Lavai, Afilu B'char Nami. Why can't you just bring the Bechar Bizman as you have a firstborn animal, bring it to the Beis Hamikdash? Question: when you bring it to the Beis Hamikdash, do you need to build a Mizbeach or even without a Mizbeach?
No, not for Bechar.
Not for Bechar. Tosfos says you need a Mizbeach. Tosfos says so according to Tosfos, you shouldn't be able to shech the carbon pesach Bizman as like people want to do. But I guess there's other Rishonim. I don't know. I'm familiar with Tosfos right here. Tosfos says you need a Mizbeach. So why can you bring up Bechar now? But if you hold that there's no Kedusha today, so then you should have asked a question on a Bechar. Why are you asking me a question on Ma'aser Sheni? There's no Kedusha today. You could say there's no Kedusha today. The problem is we have a specific case where the blood and everything was done for the Bechar before the Churban. And now we have the meat to deal with. And now we have a hekesh between the meat and the blood of the Bechar, the meat of the blood, the meat of the Bechar, and the blood of the Bechar. We know that the blood definitely needs a Mizbeach. So too, the meat. And then, take a look, very, very simple. It looks something like this. We have the blood of a Bechar. That teaches us with the hekesh to the Bechar's meat. That you need a Mizbeach. And now once I have the meat, I have a hekesh to the Ma'aser Sheni that you need, that if you have a Mizbeach, it's great. So what's the problem with this? It's a hekesh to hekesh. So what's the answer? That hekesh to hekesh is only in kachim. What's not kachim in this picture? Ma'aser Sheni. But does that work if that's the outcome? Sometimes you say, oh, if it's chulin, you can do a hekesh to hekesh, but that's the melamed, the guy all the way to the right. If he's chulin, he could teach in a hekesh, but not the one that's learned. So says the Gemara, you can't do hekesh from hekesh. Says Gemara, ma'aser dagan chulin who ma'aser, the ma'aser of the wheat is chulin. In other words, ma'aser sheni is chulin. You bring the stuff up, you're eating it yourself. That's if you hold that the one that's learned, the one all the way to the left is chulin, that works great. But if you need that the chulin should be all the way to the right, not all the way in the left, and over here on the right, the dam and the basar are kachim, how do you do a hekesh from a hekesh? Damu basar chadim milsi, both blood. Take a look. I'll zoom in either. The blood is of the Bechar. The meat is of the Bechar. So it's one animal. It's one carbon. So it's considered one. It's not even a hekesh. We were running out of time. I had a nice video that I'll just show you tomorrow. Be'ezer Hashem. Rabbi Sai, have a wonderful day.
Merit the schus of spreading Torah throughout the world. Sponsor a shir today. MDYsponsor.com or sponsor at MDYDaf.com.